Okay, welcome back everybody, and we've Karen back in the hot seat again. So we're going to be looking at formative assessment and feedback in teams. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. So thanks for having me back again. What we're going to do is look at tools that support formative assessment, and I suppose we're always so conscious of the impact that assessment and feedback has on our students, but if we can find tools that make it easier for us as educators and I suppose make it easy for the students to be able to access it and also I suppose get the relevant feedback. And I suppose one of the beauty about these things is it's constantly updating and constantly improving. My background, as I said, is in second level, but again, these are, I suppose, technologies that students are used to using by the time, they're coming in here as well. So there's a little bit of familiarity with some of these as well. So today, primarily what we're looking at is, because we're looking at teams, there's specific features within teams that are useful to allow us to use a variety of media, choose a variety of different technologies to assess our students, and then specifically mention quiz for capturing, I suppose, feedback from students, but also a level of their understanding, and then assignments and rubrics. They're reusable, they're easy for our students to understand, they're easy for us to correct with, and the beauty about all this is, to me anyways, it's in one place and I can quickly correct a lot of work, which is always key, but also while it's quick and easy, I can also give meaningful and impactful personalised feedback. And I suppose a lot of the research now is saying that personalisation of feedback and, giving students concrete, specific examples of how they improve can result in huge impacts in their understanding. So I'm basing this all on the fact that when you're working with this, and I know you're working with Moodle and lots of other technologies as well, but you have that integration with teams, and in a class team there are specific features available that support assessment and feedback. So I suppose if you're using Teams, you'll see that there's a variety of different, I suppose, features present. So actually, this has actually changed. I should have updated the slide. But now you'll see the assignments is actually on the left-hand side, not along the top. And I suppose that's, again, it's recognising that it's now easier for students to find it up there. But within assignments, we have a couple of things that we can do. So we can give specific titles, we can give specific instructions, and we can attach various different media. And I'll touch on this in a little bit more time, but what we can do is provide really easy to understand options for our students. We can give points, we can attach rubrics, and make it very easy for students to go to one specific point to find all their information. Again, this is accessible, which means that when the students access this, they have immersive reader technology to read it aloud with them and to support it. So again, this is ever changing, and I feel like this is only what's the word? This is only true today because it's true today, but it will constantly update. But very much now you'll recognise, and if you haven't looked at this in a while, this is updated, so you can attach a huge amount of material now. So and this is, I suppose, really important because it underlines what's possible. So now you'll see that you can attach media that is present from OneDrive. I know we were saying how much you're using Class Notebook. We can attach directly from it. Links to other websites, microbits of MakeCode, and resources that are found on Teams as well. So we can attach a range of different resource materials for our students to access and read. I think what's really important, maybe this is this got updated, and when you're looking about how we can, this got updated with this, you can't see it, but it says video recording there, and when you're trying to create an assignment for your student and you're looking at the classes in front of you, and these will benefit if I actually sit down and explain exactly what I need you to do. That video recording does exactly what it says in the tin. I can open it up, it will record me, my camera and my microphone, and I can explain, I want you to open the Word document labeled blank, that's a reference material, I want you to read through it or carry it around a task. But I think this is really important. This is a newer update that you can explicitly explain what you want your students to do, while also attaching a number of different, as I said, media and different documentation for students to work with. Also then, if you're using external apps and external websites, such as like Flipgrid or Wakelet, these all directly attach in here. So it's not a case that you're going to be sending students off to look at various different places, or like go to YouTube, search for this video. We can directly upload that and provide, I suppose, that rich media. For example, I should have said YouTube, but we can build all this rich media into our assignments. And when we go back here, and I suppose I mentioned it previously, I think some of the key features of it is we can provide, obviously, points, but we can also provide the rubrics, which are, I suppose, extremely beneficial for both student and for the educator. So when you click on a rubric, add rubric, it'll come it'll come pre-organized so that you can simply enter the text and provide the assessment criteria. So you can see it's very easy to simply pop in, it could be something like this, which is an essay criteria, that the arguments and examples address the development of Roman architecture, and then how you can move down, I suppose, from good to fair to poor, but you can expand this and you can have this over several. There might be 4 or 5 criteria that have been assessed, and this is there and accessible for the students to see. So there is no points associated with this one, but if I toggle the no to a yes, I can then allocate points and weightings to each one. So what I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that Teams provides that structure to provide assessments that have clear, I shouldn't say clear rubric, but they can provide clear guidance to the students what specific success criteria they must achieve when they are doing their piece of work. And obviously then the students can open these rubrics and see exactly what is needed. And judging by the huge amount of collaborations going on here, one of the other nice features is these are downloadable. So this rubric I can download, I can share that in my subject area, or again I can share that with a colleague, which I'm working on a research project, and say these are the areas that I'm looking at. How will this fit in with your specific area? So once you create it, you can hit attach, but if you reopen it again, you'll see a little button download, and you can simply download it. And then, as I said, you can share that across your departments or across project areas, and you can see where you can build that collaboration and I suppose also look for feedback and support. Sometimes you're saying, I use this rubric maybe and I don't feel like, it provided maybe the clarity. Have you any advice? But that's just a specific thing. But they're of great benefit to our students. And that's because when it comes to the students attaching and handling in their work, we can click on the rubric, we can give them their allocation. So, if they're getting excellent, we can give them specific feedback on it, why it was excellent, but also we can give feedback on, why it was good and what they would need to do to achieve that excellent standard. And in yet another new update, now in the feedback, because this one literally rolled out, I think, yesterday, the day before, there's now even a video option. So there is an attachment clip here with feedback. So yes, I can provide written feedback to the student, but I can also give them some video feedback. So specifically, if you're looking at skills and using, they're using something like Flipgrid to capture what they're doing, you can also, give them that media feedback and say, this is where you've gone wrong. Or else, I think sometimes it's great to say there's feedback there, but we know that our students like conversation. They like talking to us to hear exactly where they've gone wrong. So it's not in this slide because it literally rolled out, I think, yesterday worldwide. But now you'll see a little paperclip there under the feedback area, and you can use video feedback to also feedback to your students as well as written feedback. So I think that's, I suppose, really important to be aware that we can meet the students where they are in terms of if they're finding something like that audio feedback or that conversation style feedback more, I suppose, more suitable for them, we now have the options to support that. And then looking at forms and Microsoft Forms. And again, I had a look through your digital ed case studies, I noted that students are saying that they're finding them useful and they like them because they're very easy for them to access and partake in, and they're also great for us to understand where they are. So our assessment of learning and their further learning, they're great because again we can use this within teams. And the reason I say that is because when all this kind of formative assessment is going to one place, we can extrapolate all the data and get clear understanding of where our students are and what feedback we're providing to them. So within assignments, you'll see one of the areas that you can also choose is quiz. And from this, you can create very, I suppose, different types of questionnaires. So we can have multiple choice, Likert scales, long answer questions that students can do. And I think really important for me anyway is I can see the time that they've taken to complete it. So I can see if a student spent 2 minutes on it, or I can see if a student spent 10 minutes on it. And while it won't affect the score that they get, but it will affect, I suppose, when you're giving them feedback, if you can see it was clearly rushed, you can give that feedback for them. And equally within forms, we have the opportunity in this case to look at person, go down through their questions, but we can also look at specifics, toggle over, look at questions and see how they've done on specific questions. So look at the class as a whole. And obviously these also generate pie charts and tables based on their results. So we get that feedback on their understanding. And again, I think critical to forms is that each one of the students, when they access this, they can use the accessible technology to read it aloud and get the support they might need in understanding the questions. So looking at them, I would say these are all great tools that we can use for formative assessment and engaging with our students to see, I suppose, their level of understanding. But we can also build on this a little bit because within teams, we can also measure how their sense of confidence with the material or their sense of confidence with their assessments and stuff like that. So in posts, in your general channel, you'll notice the little icon, the heart in the circle, and that is reflect. And these are for students, for you to check in with your students. So it can be something as simple as, in this case, how are you feeling today? Which I suppose we've gone through a huge range of, I won't say trauma, but we've gone through so much, and our students were obviously dealing with pandemics and, afraid to go home probably at certain times. So being able to just check in with them about how they're feeling today, or it could be something like the one down the bottom, how do you feel about the material we're covering today? And you can get that indication of lots of green faces. There's no actual emotions associated with these. The students get to choose their emotion, but they get to indicate where they're feeling on this range. And we, as educators, get that feedback. So, if I'm covering something and I know it's tricky, I can use this Reflect app, it's called, to say, how do you feel about it? Leave it open for a day and get that feedback from them. And it might give me, if I'm seeing lots of frowny faces and maybe slightly sad looking emojis, it tells me, actually, I'm going to go back over that tomorrow, or I'm going to ask 1 or 2 students specifically what they were finding difficult and use that as my area that I need to go back and cover with them. But it's also good for the students, I think, to acknowledge their emotions as well. And I suppose specifically, this all feeds back into that within teams, you have insights. So within insights, you can track their overall emotional. It It will track their Reflect app, so their emotions. So if you're using that over time, you can see how the emotions of the students have changed. But you can also see for these more formative assessments, and if you're providing grades and stuff, how that how their grading has changed. So what's the average grade of the class? But you can drill down into individual students also and see how they're comparing to the students. So in this case, I think the insights is really important. And when you look at, you can also track the student activity and see when they're doing your work. This might sound funny, but you can also see when they're accessing the material. So are they accessing your assignments at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, when they should be in bed because they have a lecture at 9 o'clock? All of that is visible here. So, you know, you can be empowered by simply clicking on track student activity and see what time of the day or night they're actually accessing your class material, your coursework, and doing your assessments. It doesn't track anything outside of my team, if that makes sense. So if I'm looking at Roman, if I'm teaching about Roman archaeology, it's only tracking their usage of the course materials. It's not going to be tracking when they're on any other applications, really, when they're tracking, when they're accessing the materials. But these are kind of, I suppose, the information that are powerful for us when we're supporting our students. But these are available, as I said, all within Teams. And our students are, I suppose, they've come through a period, they're used to accessing media online and accessing school resources online. So this is really just building on that and make sure that they are getting different opportunities to get their work assessed, but also provide them feedback and a range of materials as well. So I suppose all of these are different technologies based in and around Microsoft Teams that are accessible by you and your students on any given day, and have been seen to be a great support for students as they're accessing their course materials. I don't know if you have any questions around that, and I know this is it's probably harder because I'm not actually showing you all the buttons and stuff, but if you have any questions about how, you know, is there something that could be used or whatever, I'd be happy to take them. Hey,
yeah, I actually looked at the whole assignment feature in Teams. I suppose my reluctance to use it is it's not integrated with Moodle in terms of the grades.
Yeah.
And that's a huge administrative kind of area that I think lecturers may be kind of reluctant about. Are there plans to kind of have a kind of BLE integration?
So that's actually a very good question that I can follow up, because there are different levels of integration with different LMSs like Moodle and stuff, but I can follow up with that and find out specifically. There is an option, and I will say that is, and this is not a solution, but if it was something that you liked, in the grades tab you can download it to an Excel file, and it also pulls all the feedback with it as well. It's not a solution, but it is. It's a workaround maybe in the interim, but I know that's extra work for someone like yourself, and I'm trying to say we need to streamline work. But I can definitely look into that and see what are the levels of integration available and if there's any more existing plans to link them. But I don't know today.
Are there plans to take it forward and be competitive to Moodle or Blackboard and just have everything in one place, because that would be a solution?
So much easier. I think that I definitely can't answer for anyway, but I don't know. As I said, I'm coming from a point of looking at something that you can use, but I don't know about the future plans for it. The integrate, so it's not a case that I think there's a direct, what's the word? There's a direct compete, but I don't know.
Well, there absolutely is a direct competition, no doubt about it. Is it possible to link or to extend the assignment for some students, for example, who may need extra time, or who may need an extended deadline for whatever?
So one of the nice options is you can set it for all students. You can assignments, you can set it for a group of students, or you can set it for individual students. So that student X who might need the extra week, you can just set it for him for the extra week or something, so that is.
But do you have to set a new assignment for that student individually and then set this particular date?
So, yeah, you'd have to copy it as such and set it for him. I know that's not easier either, but I suppose you have that option of differentiating it for certain individual students. So if you have a group of students and you're like, these will need extra time or extra resources, that's an option that's available there. And you can give a soft due date or the hard due date. So you can give it that it'll allow a late turn in, or you can turn that off also as well. But yeah, that is true. Actually, you'd have to go and kind of copy it over and extend it for him.
Definitely appreciate it.
The extra time.
Just in general, just everything being in one place. Like as a student, yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We usually have to jump between about 3 or 4 different applications, and Moodle is not the best to navigate at the moment. It's definitely nice having everything just there, especially with the feedback as well. I'm a person who does like to get feedback as quick as possible, so I know where I'm at and what to do for the next assignment. And there's still stuff on Moodle, I'm just waiting for feedback, or I have to go out of my way to ask. So it's nicer to have an idea of where I'm at, kind of thing, as you're going through the course.
Yeah, because like OneNote was easy to adapt. We can create a OneNote classroom from our Moodle course, so, and we used it in maths this year and it was brilliant.
I love it, yeah.
But I couldn't go as far as the assignment because it would be making too much work for
Extra
me
work.
Because of the grades dimension. That needs to be in one place, and so if they all kind of
Talk to each other.
yeah, I think it would be like we're leaning more towards messaging on Teams than an email. That's kind of a communication mode. So I suppose it's getting closer to that, but it's just those little bits that kind of make it a little bit more difficult to adapt.
100% get you.
The rubric feature the rubric feature is really nice there actually, even sample rubrics, even for second level or third level, people who maybe not have used rubrics before, so, even the templates and that built in and stuff, so, yeah.
And I think that links in then with what CJ is saying, the rubric will give quick and easy feedback.
Yes.
And the students can self-assess a little bit almost when they turn it in. They're like, well.
It helps to know what's being looked for when you're, like if you get given an essay, you don't know. You can write it on anything, but it's only being graded on certain parts. So having an idea in your head before you go writing it can give you a better idea to do it, especially for people who more or less have writer's block whenever they have like a 500-word essay ahead of them, or like, oh, I don't know what to do, and just start.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I can look into that, but I don't know the answer to it. But yeah, I get it. No one wants extra work, and I'm conscious of that. It's just, I suppose, we're talking through the briefs, it was looking at how different tools it could be used for formative assessment. But yeah.
Thanks very much. It's really interesting actually, just the different the user interface with Teams, because we are all big users of Teams, so it's something, if, as Etienne said, if we can get a little bit of integration, it's going to work much better for us here on this site, but obviously everyone has their own different needs.
Yeah.
So too, as you mentioned, like formative assessment is what you were focusing
on.
So
it doesn't
pulling
have to
it in
be
for your summative assignment. So they are, it could be used for something a little bit separate, so it's engagement, like formative assessment and engagement rather than the number crunching assessment.
It doesn't have to be, but I know obviously your students are going to be very conscious of exams and stuff, and that'll have to be done through your quality assurance teams. That'll be separate, but perhaps there's a place for smaller work and stuff.
Is there kind of like a grade book in this?
So where are my tabs? So beside assignments, you'll see a thing called grades, and that is there as a grade book, but you can actually export it to Excel. And if it'll export all the feedback comments as well with it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So it's great, like when you're like kind of seeing what advice you might have given them, did they actually use it? That's all visible there.
And you can bring that into your VLE then, really.
So that'll be there as an Excel CSV file. So if you can export that in, it might be as much work, but I don't want to create work for anyone or tell anyone to do anything. But it's just, I suppose it's options. And I suppose if you're going down the rubrics route, you can give points and it self-corrects, so it'll tot up. So if it's 5 points for excellent, that will self-add up. So it's just, but yeah, I know we're looking more so at feedback then rather than summative, but I suppose it's just if you're looking at tools there. But yeah, if you don't assign grades, you will just get the feedback comments in the grade book. So that's maybe worth placing in the formative role.
Yes, which is very useful for a lot of modules, you know, so, even for smaller percentages. Very good. Thanks very much. We'll give her a round of applause.